Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first Leap In Presents for 2025. So, my name's Dee. If some of you might have attended some of our webinars before, and I'm the Learning and Development Specialist here at Leap In, and it's amazing. We've had such a great turnout today. So, this is my first Leap In Presents for February, which has only just started. So we've got lots to talk about today. So let's kick off. I'm just going to check a couple of things with yourself. Firstly, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we work and live, acknowledging the stories, traditions, and living cultures of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples on this land, and we commit to building a brighter future together. Now, just a few things that you will be on mute for today, and we'll be using the chat to ask any questions. I'm joined by two of my team, by Christy Lee and Amy, who will also be answering questions, and we'll try and answer those as we go, and I'll keep an eye on that as well. Now, if you do happen to close the Zoom window at any time, you can join back just by using the invite in your calendar. And if you have any audio issues, please just check those settings in Zoom. Sometimes I find even leaving and coming back can work, and it sort of resets Zoom. And closed captioning is available. You can turn that on down the bottom, and that will assist accessibility as well. I also want to cover off, before I go too far into our content, that we've got a really large group joining us today, and that group includes NDIS participants and their families. We have some providers as well as NDIS support coordinators. Now, Leap In is a plan manager that works in this space. We are not the agency. So the information I'm going to talk about is quite general and not specific. And if you are in doubt, we're going to recommend that you do ask the agency, and I'll give you some details on how to do that. This webinar is being recorded. It's been a while since we've delivered one of our Consumables and Assistive Technology webinars. So we're going to record this one, and it will be placed in due course onto our Leap In Presents page. I also want to cover off that this is right now a live webinar, and it's in an ever-changing space. So I'm going to refer you to NDIS content and pages as we go. So just be aware that we're filming this today, and things could change very rapidly. And I think a lot of us have seen that over the last few months, that there have been rapid changes. And I'm going to share with you some content around the lists and how assistive technology and consumables are being regarded. Now, this is one of a series of Leap In Presents that we offer. I'm going to head on over for a moment as well to our website, so leapin.com.au. You can head on across to our Knowledge Centre here at the top and down to Leap In Presents, and you can see the different webinars that we have upcoming. We've got months ahead planned to talk to you. We've also, down the bottom, got some of these webinars already. So if there is a topic that you would like to learn about, or you think that somebody in your life would like to learn about further, you can head on over to this page and you can see what we've previously covered as well. When we are using the chat, I also just want to cover off that we are committed to protecting people's privacy. So please don't share any identifying personal details in the chat. And if you have a personal question, we are absolutely more than happy to speak with you one-on-one after. Our privacy policy can be accessed at leapin.com.au. So we have your details. If you'd like us to follow up, just let us know and we'll identify that and follow up for you. So at that foundational level, when we talk about, and I hope I don't offend anyone by sort of using acronyms like AT, so assistive technology is commonly referred to as AT in our world. We're talking about equipment or devices that help you do things that you can't do because of your disability. It could do a range of things for you. It could help you do something more easily or safely, allow you to do things independently, and also it can reduce your need for other supports over time. So assistive technology can really deliver on quite a few goals in terms of what it can benefit. Now I'm going to head across to some of our stories. So always love to share the voice of our community. So let's hear firstly, and then we're going to listen to Josh's story.
Years old. I'm in year 3 at school. I like to play with my friends at school with my sister Jerry.
Josh goes to a mainstream school. He's in year 3 this year. He has cerebral palsy and autism. At home, he's very chatty and very friendly. He loves having visitors. He's got a lot to say. The goals we have for Josh moving forward would be to walk independently. One of his other goals is social skills, trying to build those friendships. Josh has been on the NDIS since he was 3 years old, and over that time he's had a range of different AT supports. The ones that he uses the most at the moment, his wheelchair and his walker.
I'm getting very good at walking in my walker. I'm feeling very happy learning to walk. My legs are getting very strong.
His iPad has been a huge change for him with the communication devices, because he has the ability now sometimes to express something that was more difficult for him. Josh also has a headset that he uses. He's got a paralysed vocal cord, so he uses the headset to help project his voice. And he has a whole heap of other supports in his package that he's had over time.
I use my iPad to talk to my teachers and friends. I feel very happy that I can share with my friends and family.
Since getting some of this AT equipment, Josh has changed dramatically. The biggest change we've noticed is his independence. So we're really proud of the progress that Josh has been making, and it's making a big difference to our family.
I love that every time I share Josh's video, I catch something different, and I just caught there were some interesting lights on his wheels, which was sort of a little bit of fun there as well. First, let's talk about what the process is, as well as we cover off some of these rules. So firstly, I want to talk about when you are applying for assistive technology, it's a good idea to take some evidence along to your planning meetings. You might have some quotes, you might have some recommendations or reports to then allow you to gain approval for the assistive technology. Now, when the assistive technology costs more than $1,500, you're going to need evidence from an AT advisor, and I'm going to cover off as well what an AT advisor is and what needs to be in that advice. So there's different rules depending on how much your assistive technology is. Now, when we're talking about rules, as of October 3, you can only purchase items that are listed as approved NDIS supports. So you need to first check, is this support on the yes list? There's 3 different lists. I'm going to give you some insight into those lists today. And for most people, there's actually no difference to what they're claiming. So there are 3 lists which are available via the NDIS page. We'll share a link as well around that. Now, there is a list of supports that are NDIS list, supports that are not, as well as supports that may be considered a replacement support. And a replacement support is very much a new term in our world, and I'm going to give you some examples of what replacement supports can look like. So my advice is get familiar with these lists. They are available in easy read and PDF versions, so I would suggest downloading a copy so that way you can understand what is in those lists to follow the rules. So the first thing I would suggest is let's check that the item that you want to buy is on that supports that are NDIS list. In my world, I would say the yes list, right? So if the item is listed, happy days, you are able to purchase it from your funding. Now, once we've got that yes, we need to check out the risk. So there's 2 things to consider. Is it on the yes list? And how does it rank in terms of risk? So if the item is low risk, there is a different process for if it's high risk. So I'm going to share with you now, sorry, stumbling over my words a bit. If we head to the NDIS site, we have just shared the link to the list themselves, but underneath for participants, over on this 3rd column here, you'll find a page on assistive technology. And this is where we're talking here about what makes something low risk and what makes something high risk. Because if you have something that is high risk that you want to buy, it doesn't mean that it can't be purchased, but you're going to need to get some advice. So things that are low risk are defined as being unlikely to cause harm in day-to-day life. You can buy them readily from a store. We don't have to go to a specific disability store. You can go and buy the items and you can use it straight away without any professional advice. So you don't need anyone to come in and make sure that it's being safely used or set up. And I've got a picture there of something that would be a low risk item. In comparison, something that is high risk is complex. It might have been known to have caused harm, used for a restrictive practice, or need some advice to set it up or train us how to use it so that way we can get the full benefit out of that use. And we'll also have that say that there's a proviso that some high risk things are not funded by the NDIS. So that's how they define the high and the low risk. Now, I've mentioned getting advice. So if you need to get something in terms of high risk items or even further expensive items, I'm going to explain the different levels. There's a role called an AT advisor. Now, they could be a range of people that are in your life at the moment. It could be someone that you're doing therapy with, or an AT mentor. I'm gonna share what an AT mentor is. I've seen on this, it could also be a GP if they've got a specialist knowledge. Like, it's somebody who understands disability and can make recommendations for you. Absolutely has that existing relationship. So it's not the person that you've met at the Disability Expo that wants to sell a particular item. It is somebody who has got knowledge of what your disability, how it presents, and what recommendations could be made. So when you get your AT advice, they really should be looking at the whole picture. So it's not the case to ask just for one thing. Think about what your plan looks like, whether it's 12 months or more, and what would be beneficial for you. They might be talking to you about things that they've tried and things that have failed, and give some reasoning around why they're making recommendations. So we can't just call them and say, hey, I need to get this item. Can you get me a letter? So they have to also talk about repairs. So if you're recommending, for example, we just saw Josh in that wheelchair that I keep noticing different features. So if there's a bag to go on the wheelchair, or if we're buying a wheelchair, remembering that wheelchairs need repair. So there might be tires or all types of parts. So sometimes parts under the seat might need to be repaired. So we've got to consider all of that. And they've also got to consider, how is this piece of AT going to work versus other supports? And those other supports might be, using a support worker versus buying this equipment to give me independence or things like that. So you'll find that your AT advisor doesn't need to use the assessment template on the NDIS site. They just need to make those recommendations. And commonly we see that as well. And we'll see it on their letterhead, and it'll talk to their experience. I did mention that there was also the possibility to get advice from the AT mentor. So this is a new item that came out last year. We haven't seen too many of this yet at Leap In. So this AT mentor is someone that has done an ASCA qualification, or they have lived experience in regards to disability, and they can also deliver that AT advice as well. I'm now going to talk about what we do when we're checking that things are not an NDIS support. I know that there's a question that's come up, and I'm probably going to pick that one up as we get closer, or Christine or Amy might answer that one. So let's go look at checking the list to make sure that something is not on the not list. So if you've got something that you want to buy that is on the not list, and we're gonna play an activity in a minute, essentially you can't buy it. If it's on the not list, you can't buy it unless it's been specified in your plan, either in writing from the NDIA or from the Administrative Review Tribunal, which was previously the Administrative Appeals Tribunal. That third list also exists, and I'm going to unpack what that is. Does the item need a replacement support? So if your item that you want to buy is a replacement support, there is a process around obtaining that as well. So I'm going to explain what replacement supports are. We're going to look at all of these three. So in my mind, I'm really visual. So firstly, I want to check, is my AT on the yes list? If it is, I need to check out the risk. And if it's on the no list, I need to know, does it fit the replacement process? And if it doesn't, then unfortunately, I'm not able to buy things with NDIS funding. So that's the new process that we should be following in regards to anything that we're looking to buy within post-October. So now I'm going to talk about some of these items. Let's use the chat. So firstly, let's think about, with your knowledge, does this meet the definition of an NDIS support? And if you have got the NDIS page open, you're most welcome to access those lists and tell me, do you think this meets the definition of an NDIS support? So we're going to sort of look at, is it on the yes list? And if it is it risky? So we've got a few answers coming through. I've got a whole range of supports I'm going to throw at you. So remember how I said in the post-October 3, a lot of things that have always been bought are still going to be able to be bought. I've got lots of yeses. So this is a portable Braille device. It promotes proficiency in Braille. You can connect it to a range of devices via Bluetooth, and it can help you save documents. You can adjust your thumb speed and your reading speed. It can help build the proficiency. So absolutely, vision related equipment is on the yes list. So you can purchase things such as, Braille, magnifiers, navigation. Absolutely. Do we think it is low or high risk? So if we know that it's on the yes list, is it low or high risk? And I'm going to give you those definitions to think about. I'm keen to see what people think. So can we buy it? Can we use it straight away without professional advice or setup? I've got lots of answers coming through, lots of lows. This one actually does require some setup. It has got some complexity in it in terms of doing the best that it can do. And it's likely that if someone is using this, they might have been working with someone like an OT or a speech therapist. So you're going to need to have some AT advice, and there'll be some funding in the plan as well to help that therapist set it up. We actually can't go and use it straight away. If we do, we can't do all the use all the features as such. What about this item here? So does it meet the definition? Someone's just asked what it is. Okay. These are orthotics. I might give away the name and whether it's lower risk if I tell you. So, I've got people that are saying depends on the disability. Well, okay, that's a really great question. So, for example, if I was experiencing discomfort with my shoes or my feet, I could head off to a footwear store. I could go buy some orthotics, which anyone could buy. These are actually customized orthotics. So these have been made specifically to correct the placement of my foot, which could help potentially my ability to walk, my ability to stand. It can impact all the way up. So we've now got lots of answers coming through. So yes, customized prosthetics, including orthotics. And we saw in the video earlier, we saw ankle foot orthotics. So Josh had some AFOs on his leg. So absolutely customized prosthetics. So orthotics are still available. And if they were generic, they would be low risk. But these have been made for someone's foot. So these are, and like I said, I gave away the name. So they have being made and they're high risk. So the risk isn't always an injury. It's that customization. It's that professional setup to make sure that those orthotics, and I mean, we pay invoices, they can be quite expensive, but they're meant to help someone. So great. You're going to need to get that advice. What about this checked item that's across the bed, the green thing? Firstly, does it meet the definition of a support? Is it something that you can buy with your funding? So this is a continence aid. And if somebody soiled their bedding, you would remove that and replace it. So items to manage incontinence are covered. Absolutely. So still covered. And the second question, is it low risk or high risk? Does it need someone to come and show us? So we know that it is covered. And in terms of risk, this one is spot on. There's quite a few answers coming through with this one. It's low risk. So we can go and buy it. We don't need a therapist or anybody. Yeah. And somebody's just shared that, yeah. But there's different ones you can get, particularly for continence, where sometimes there's like a really plasticky sound and those particular ones are fairly quiet. So, absolutely the AT advice isn't needed to be purchased, but it can be helpful, particularly if you are experiencing things as well, that it might be helpful. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. Does it meet the definition of an NDIS support? We've got a few answers here. Absolutely. So, yes, it's personal mobility equipment. So you can see here transfer devices and hoists. We've got the next answer. So is it high risk? We're starting to get our heads around this. Yeah, absolutely. High risk. It's going to need some advice and setup. We can't just go buy it, use it today. What about this one? Yes, in terms of is it an NDIS support? Absolutely. So wheelchairs are. This is interesting. So I haven't given you the clue for this particular item. Someone said low if generic. If I said to you the only feature about this chair is around weight. So if someone was buying it, it would have a weight limit. In fact, sometimes you can buy these things from chemists, and I think somebody told me Kmart. I know that I saw this picture on Aldi, which has an amazing middle aisle if anybody ever sees it. So it is actually low risk item that we don't need someone to set it up and advise how to use that. So if it was more complex, absolutely would be high risk. So you don't need to get the advice. Of course, advice can be helpful. The NDA recognises that people that get advice often make good buying decisions. What about this one? So the answer is, now we're looking at that no list, no. Lifestyle related items, so musical instruments, not covered, not to be funded with NDIS funds. And what about this particular one? So this, in terms of lists, kind of looks like a beanbag. My awareness is that it would be something that's probably filled with soft foam. So I would be looking at the list for something like a beanbag. So against the list, this would be deemed as a beanbag, and it isn't on the current list. So I'm going to give you some processes of what to do if the thing that you want to buy is not on the list and how you can obtain it. But no, it's all the indications are that this is on the no list. And what about this one here? I think there's probably a few parents that are familiar with this particular thing. So standard indoor and outdoor play equipment is on the no list. And this one, I should clarify, this is a motorized scooter. Under the no list under travel and transport, we have vehicles. So that's just a standard scooter. Anyone can use it. It hasn't been modified. It's not really a disability or a mobility scooter as such. Yeah. So yeah, there's quite a few comments around this one. So lots of people can have disabilities and may utilize things like supplements that can help them, but supplements, there's a whole range of, so anything non-prescription. And if it was prescription, it's actually covered by another government organisation. It's covered by health. So no, it can't be claimed against your NDIS plan. Does everyone know what this is? I should mention this is a robot vacuum. So some people are fortunate enough to have, you might know someone who has a device that will help clean your house without requiring you to do it. And someone's hit the nail on the head there. This, I've got a question mark because it is a standard household item. However, it could be a replacement support. And I'm going to talk about replacement support. So let's park that and we'll explore that in just a few moments. And certainly earlier, I saw someone asking this question. So coming back right now, and we're gonna share some information here. So what are your thoughts here about what this item is? iPads are listed on the no list alongside tablets and phones, but I've got a question mark. So again, we're going to explore what is considered to be a replacement support. Remember how I said at the start, replacement support is a whole brand new term. So we've got a few people that are sharing some replacement thoughts. Replacement supports are available for a limited range of supports. What you do with replacement support, it used to be that if we wanted to buy some equipment that we thought we could use for our disability needs, that we would apply and we would get extra funding. These are different. You actually swap out some of your funding. You're saying, I'm going to replace some funding here and I'd like to buy here. There's only a limited range of things that you can buy. Those things are standard commercially available household items or smartwatches, tablets, so like an iPad, as well as apps for communication. I'm going to share a couple of examples of what that can look like. Now, in terms of the process is really important. So we are starting to see replacement supports coming in. It is important to follow the process before you buy the thing. You have to download the form, or you can send them an email, and you need to tell them, this is the thing that I want to buy, how much it's going to cost, and what I want to replace in my plan. And you have to state how you think that is going to work better than the support that you've been given. They will then consider, how does it meet? How's it going to replace this other item? How's it going to meet the need? Does it cost the same or less? So they're not going to consider if it's going to cost more. And is it safe for you? You have to apply before. And if they say no, you can't apply again for that same item for 12 months. And if you have approval, that is going to last for the duration of your current plan. The two examples I'm going to talk to you about: iPads. So if someone's non-speaking and they need to use the iPad. So we saw Josh in that video. He's got a number of things happening. He's got a compressed vocal cord. So an iPad would have been bought for him, and he's also using some apps to help him communicate his needs. So this person in my story here would have funding normally for a support worker who might help them connect to the community, and they might elect to take some of that support worker funding out to replace some of the funds to allow them to buy that device. And we've seen things like this coming in now. The second replacement support example is around household items. So I've got a story here. Just say someone isn't able to independently complete their food preparation. They usually have a support worker come in and help them with food preparation, and they want to buy a home appliance to help them do this task independently. Remember how I used the robotic vacuum? So instead of having someone come and clean my house, I want to buy this household appliance, and I have asked then, I want to swap out some of my funding in my core funds to help them with the task. And that's what we would be replacing. So I'm just checking now. I'm catching my breath for a moment. So that's the replacement supports. What we have seen is replacement supports have been where someone might have had Auslan support and they have swapped out the iPad for Auslan. We've seen people who have not applied for the replacement support before they bought the thing, and it hasn't been successful to claim. You have to do that before you claim the item. So once we have that approval, we can then go ahead and submit that claim to the NDIA for you. That's what I'm going to talk about, replacement supports. I'm now going to talk about the assistive technology breakdown in terms of what low cost, mid cost, and high cost will look like. So we're now going to be looking at the world of under 1,500, the process for 1,500 to 15,000 and over 15,000. So someone's just asked, if you're applying for iPads for communication, you may need a support worker to assist with the use. If you're applying for an iPad, you have to be replacing some of your funding. So like I said, the one that we saw recently was around Auslan funding. So instead of having someone be able to translate for them, they're able to use the iPad independently. It really is better for a conversation with the NDIA. And replacement supports aren't a change of circumstances. There's a specific process. The fact that we're seeing them now, they're not taking a long time. They're only taking, I think, a few weeks. So it's not like we're waiting for a big change of circumstance. It's a new process. So get familiar with those forms. And somebody's just said it could be replacing therapy hours. To me, in my mind, capacity building is different from a piece of technology, but the more that we see them coming through, we'll be able to share what we've seen and give you some more information as well. So low cost items, so things that are under 1,500, I've seen some people have talked about consumables, that they're considered a consumable item, so we consume them and they are funded from the core budget. You don't have to get advice if they're low risk, but it's always a good idea. And once we get to mid or high cost, they're funded under an area called capital. So we know that core and capital exist. I draw the budgets because as a bucket, because in my mind, it's a bucket of funding that I can access. So this is commonly referred to as consumables. And sometimes there's not a lot of comments in the plan. We might just see funding is included to support your goals. And it used to be that it was funded in amounts of, it could be anywhere from like $100 at a time to 500. It really can range. There's no sort of rules around it. So when we think about what the goals are, it is important to think about how your goals could be met through assistive technology. So if there were continence needs, you're looking at continence supplies and underwear and the bedding items. So the things like I showed before, the green sheet to help protect the bedding from soiling. If someone had struggles with fine motor, they might be using modified cutlery, adaptive switches. So when I look around my house where I don't have adaptive switches, I've got really fine switches that turn things on and off. It could be something that's really quite broad in use, as well as speech to text software that I might have approval for as well. Great questions come up as well, asking if every plan has funding for consumables. No, and typically children don't. We see a lot of therapy in those early years. If someone has a disability that's related to speech, it could be portable communication cards. You can duck into most stores like your Kmart and Targets, and they might have some simple cards which help someone to be able to start communicating their needs. It could be an alphabet chart that they could point to. When we look at speech generation devices, and referring again to that video with Josh, that's fairly complex, but there could be apps as part of the replacement process if it's not written into his plan as well. So speech can be assisted with assistive technology as well. When we start looking at what's under 1500, we firstly check, is it on that yes list? Is it low risk? We just check that funding is available and you can go buy the item then. If the item is high risk, you need to have written advice from an AT advisor to proceed. And someone's just asked if someone is wanting to check funding is available, you would really need to check with your participant or your member. Sometimes people buy items like low risk items. And if I think about consumables like continence items, someone might be buying them from a store and actually claiming them back as a reimbursement. And that's completely allowed as well if they are able to do that and afford to do that. Once we get to a little bit more, we start heading to mid-cost. And mid-cost is $1,500 onwards, right to $15,000. You have to have the written advice. So we will likely ask for a copy of the written advice and we hold that on file in the event of audit for you. And you're going to have some funding for the therapist or professional to help provide that advice and maybe set it up for you. So the funding can be flexible. We will see it stated in the plan. There's going to be some comments and I'm going to show you what those comments can look like. What we do firstly is we will check that you've got the capital budget. I know that even just this week, somebody was inquiring about buying something that was over $1,500, but they didn't have the capital budget. So you have to have the funding in that mid-cost area. Make sure that you've got your advice and then we will process a claim. Now there's a price guide sometimes on the budget. So when we see these notes, and you will see these in your plan, it might have said something like mid-cost budget of $10,000, and the funding says that it was provisioned for orthosis, for ankle foot orthosis, and there is a price range from $974 to $2,553. So when we see this, if you see this in your plan, you have to buy that thing first. So that's the first thing. So there's $10,000 available. Once they've bought that item, they can then buy other things that meet their needs that are on the yes list. Funding has been provisioned, but that price range is a guide. If the orthotics cost $2,200, it's totally within the price range. They can go buy it. Once they have spent that money, they have got $5,600 left over. So, we've just talked about some examples. They might need to buy some modified switches or continence items or whatever they would, and they can do that. Sometimes though, that price range, that's actually an old data set, that price range. If the 10,000 is available, you can still go ahead. So sometimes the price exceeds the price range. So what you need to do is check out that you've got budget available. You don't need to go back and get approval. You're only going back if the thing is over $15,000. If we said those orthotics were $3,200, they can still be bought because they have got money left over in that mid-cost budget. They can go over the $974 to $2,553. So if someone has been funded for mid-cost. There is a category for people that have PACE plans. PACE is the new system. It's been coming in for over 12 months now. So PACE is the new system. Some people have what we call a legacy plan, or you're on the older portal. So the category is around assistive technology, maintenance, repair, and rental. And that recognises that things need repairs, so you need to have that budget really. If you won't be able to just use core funding, if you're looking at mid-cost, you need to have a capital budget. And this isn't some examples here of what some mid-cost items can look like. So they can be amazing. I think technology is rapidly giving us functionality that can absolutely help people in so many ways. The item is high cost. We're looking at $15,000 onwards. There's no flexibility. That's something that has to have written advice. You have to go back to the agency. It is stated. So that, I think somebody before was talking about wheelchairs always being funded and needing support. So those complex chairs, complex equipment will all be in capital. So I'm now going to talk about what happens if you make a mistake. So this is something that's come out from October 3. The NDIA has stated that they understand that it's taking time for people to understand what those three lists are: the yes list, the no list, and the replacement list. And they recognise that someone might accidentally buy something which is not an NDIS support. So there is a transition period for people, so this is direct participants, to understand that those lists and make the right decision. So there, if you are a participant, there are two instances where if you've bought something that's been less than $1,500 and you've made a mistake, that they have said that they won't raise a debt. That doesn't apply for illegal items. And I'm also going to explain that if you were audited and you bought something, there is also the opportunity that they might change how, if you were self-managed, for example, they might change how you've managed your funding. For providers, so Leap In is a provider. We are a plan manager, and I know that there's lots of providers that have joined. So this includes anyone that delivers supports to participants. We don't have 12 months. We had until Friday, the 1st of November. So providers and plan managers must only be claiming NDIS funds for things that are on that yes list or things that are clearly on the replacement list that have been approved. What the agency has said, and this is detailed on the FAQ page, is if that incorrect claims are repeated or fraudulent, the NDIA may take further action. And that might include raising a debt against the provider. So sometimes if you are working with a plan manager, we might have asked, or your plan manager might have asked for written approval. We want to make sure that the support that you are asking for is able to be funded with NDIS funds. We don't want to see anybody having a debt raised, and that's why we are asking for written approval to help you buy those supports with your plan funding. In terms of how you can ask the NDIA for more, you can contact them via a number of ways. So you can call them, certainly in regards to replacement supports, downloading that form and emailing them if that's able to be done for you. That is the process. Firstly, I'm going to say let's check that NDIS page for what is and isn't a support. Look at something if it's high or low risk. We've gone through all those different methods, and if in doubt, reach out to your therapist to help them recommend supports for you. So hopefully today has been of value for you. I'm going to head on over. As I said, I've got quite a lot of Leap In Presents coming, and I'm going to just quickly share again those contact details for how to reach the agency. And we are here, and hopefully today's been helpful. You can contact the agency. Inquiries at ndis.gov.au, particularly if you've got consumables funding and there were things that you want to use and you're a little bit unsure. Ask them if you can do that. I have seen written confirmation of use of things in consumables, and that's again not taking a long time. We're seeing that come back in a few weeks. And of course, if you have any questions at all for us, our details are here as well. So one of the last things I'm going to share today, hopefully today has been helpful. I would love to get any feedback around any of the content that I've delivered today. If there's anything that you would like us to develop, please head on over to the survey link that I've just shared. I will we'll be looking at that and amending any of our Leap In Presents, and I can put a wish list in place for you. So if you do want to head over to any future Leap In Presents, don't forget to keep an eye on our website. A couple of things. In the Knowledge Centre, you can head on over to this first link here where we share information that is available as we find it. And if you aren't subscribing, I recommend adding your details here so that way you can hear about upcoming changes. We have our own page on the NDIS changes, which are here, and we are updating as content is coming out as well. Of course, our Leap In Presents is planned. So the next one I'm going to be talking about in 2 weeks' time will be on all things respite, home living, NDIS. And you might have heard there's been lots of changes in this space, but some things are still the same. And we've got further Leap In Presents as well. So I want to say thank you very much to everybody who has joined today. Thank you very much for Christy Lee and Amy as well. So we haven't had time to answer all the questions. So if there was something you needed to follow up, we have got your details and we will do that. So I hope you have a really lovely Thursday. Grab yourself a coffee. I know I'm about to caffeinate myself as well. And hopefully I'll see you at a future Leap In Presents. So thanks everyone.